Peace. So Goon Lumumba, I'm back with the Black Fathers Academy. I'm supposed to be dropping content um, weekly. That has not been happening for like the past 2, 3 weeks or something like that. I've been extremely busy in a good way, because sometimes we could be busy in a way whereas like we're not really getting anything done. We're making a lot of movement, but those movements are not effective. So one of the things is I have my children at where I live at now more often. Uh, so it's a whole lot of work that has been going into that as far as preparing for them here. I've had to purchase more futon beds, more towels, more washcloths, more food, and being very intentional about the time that we spend. And that's what this video is going to be primarily about, is being intentional about our time that we're spending with our children, especially if you have limited time with them, right? And so I've been very, like, really being keen about their meals too, making sure that they're getting super nutritious meals. Because sometimes, like, even though my children are vegan, sometimes what has happened over the years as I started to be on the go more, and their mother being on the go more, even though they're vegans, eating processed foods, right? Processed foods are not as nutritious. Um, it's not always good for digestion and things like that. So I take pride in being able to put my time and attention to that when they're here, slowing up my world a bit so that I can, be able to cater to those needs. So, anyway, when it comes to being intentional, I think we should be intentional about our lives, period, just in general, in terms of, for the most part, having a plan with what we do when we are somewhere, when we're spending time with a person, a thing, anything that we're doing, these things coincide with our goals. It help us to accomplish something. Not saying 100% of your time needs to be spent like this, no, because there should just be time that there's nothing planned, that you're just there to be. But for the most part in life, you have to be intentional, especially if you are a type of person that has went through a lot of resistance. You have a lot of things to accomplish. There's a lot of burdens that you are trying to address. In order to relieve those burdens, whatever those things may be, you have to become intentional about how you move, because the most precious resource that we have is our time, and we must manage our time wisely. So how this relates to children is, well, we have a time with them. Say for instance, if you're a parent and you get your child on the weekends, right? I don't think your time should just be, hey, whatever happens just happens. If it start out that way, then that's fine. But I believe after y'all get in the swing of some things, you start making some observations. I want to make sure that we do some intentional bonding. If that doesn't already take place, you got some fathers that when they got their children are in their cell phones, they're in the TV, on computers and laptops. I mean, they're all over the place, and there's no bringing them closer in for a deeper understanding of things. Just like something that I'm coming up with, I got to work further more on it, but I want my children to have reading time when they're over here. So no cell phones, no TV on. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Everybody grabs a book, right? And so I'm thinking about what books to make available and what other books I want to buy, because I have a lot of books. A lot of them, like more of my books in boxes than I actually have that are out on the shelves. But anyway, that's one of my plans. Cooking together. One thing that we've been doing as a family since I've been having them over here is eating together, is getting back to the kitchen table, and we all break bread as a family. All of the children and myself. breaking bread at the table, because that has become a lost value in a lot of our homes with us living, on a rush. Mom and dad are at work. It's just not enough time for us to take care of what's most important. And we have to keep fighting against capitalistic ambitions and just that way of being and just being on the move, that we're not able to really tend to what really matters in the end, because a lot of us, a lot of parents have given a lot of their time to making money for survival, or living in survival mode for their to be able to take care of their children, only to find out that their children are going through things that they wasn't able to interject in, early on in their lives. Some children might start having shown up psychological issues. Some might start engaging in criminality and things like that. So then, after you've done all the sacrificing to protect your household financially, you start realizing on the emotional, psychological, and spiritual level, it's all out of whack. And now you got all of these consequences that start to happen. And some of these consequences are your children not being psychologically prepared for the world. Then they have a child that they're not psychologically prepared to. And some parents assume that responsibility for their children, whether it's to support their grandchild or take over completely. So when we're being intentional with their time, we're trying to mitigate things that can happen in the future. That's what our parenthood is about, is to help lessen the difficulties that they can face in life. Even though we can't do everything for them, they're going to have to experience and address life on their own terms. But I do believe that we give them a better shot, we give them a better chance with the more tools that we're able to provide. And the only way that we can do that is by being very intentional about the time that we're spending with them, the conversations that we are having, and the activities that we are planning. And even if it's not a lot, even if you can't plan a lot, even if it can't be something that's for a very long duration of time, let's get into the swing. If we're not already doing this, let's get into the swing of doing that, because this will enhance them, and this will also enhance us and make us feel better about ourselves as fathers. This is how we take our control back in our family lives, and more importantly in our children. Because what I see is that it's so much stuff that's going on, and children are so different. I know through conversations over the years with my children, I just noticed that friends, young people, they don't plan on going out really anymore. I mean, I've watched my children before. They can just sit on the couch and just be on a cell phone for hours if you allow it. They can be there. And I'm not saying every child is like that, and that's really a problem. And it's a problem on a lot of levels, because cell phone use is linked to depression. Over excessive cell phone use, especially in social media, is linked to depression. It has been tied to teen suicides and things like that. And that is a whole conversation on its own about these smart devices that we all have and our usage of them, right? It introduces people into worlds that they've never known, especially children, information that they can't necessarily handle and don't have the maturity and experience to process. So we want to be able to bring them back to the real world, as much as possible. And that's what my intentions are when I have my children over here, is facilitating activities and processes that get them close. I've even bought some board games. We had the board games out uh, 2 days ago, right? And so bringing back the board games and things like that. I also have some another project that I want to work on with us um, at some point, as far as with like growing food together, and basically taking our time back to doing some of the things that some of my older children used to do when they were younger. Because when they were very young, I had more time due to the type of job I had. it afforded me to spend a little bit more time with them and things like that, right? So, with that being said, be intentional about your time, how you're spending it, your conversations. Take note. Take note and look at how you want to improve those things. And let's build with other fathers and other parents, about ideas. Even if we got to search online, Google it about activities. I've done that before. There's no shame in that. It just felt like my brain wasn't producing the type of answers that I've wanted. And look at certain particular needs and stuff like that of your children. And how will them being with you, how can you address those needs? That's a better way I can put it. How can you address those needs and things like that in some type of small way? Whatever we do, we have to work on consistency. That is the most important thing in life, period, and especially with children. Repetition, repetition, repetition is keeping these things up, and in time, improving upon these things. But I believe I know it's a worthy sacrifice. It allows you to have more of a hand in your child's development, and you are possibly minimizing bad things that could happen in the future had you not taken out that intentional time and things like that. So it's thousands and thousands and maybe millions of ideas of different things that you can do with your child or with your children. So let's start being in a mind space where we're really looking at these things and we're trying some things. Every activity might not go right. That doesn't mean it should stop. Maybe you just need to change up a little bit. Maybe you can have a conversation with your child and see what they suggest that y'all do, because a lot of children have an activity that they like to do besides their smart device, but they might not be spending a lot of time with it. So, like, another thing that I need to work on, it just dawned on me. I looked at it. It's across from me. I have a 3D printer. I bought it for my youngest son, and the installation, like the assembly, he wasn't really into the assembly aspect of it. I basically assembled. He helped me with some, and I have it, but that can be an activity that I can do with my children. I bought this 3D printer. I bought a very cheap one, just to see how it works because I've never used one before. I say I probably spent maybe $170. I don't know if every single body is familiar with that slang. I mean, when somebody say 100 something, say $150 or something like that. But I paid like $175 for this 3D printer, and it's cool, And I still haven't finished the installation, so maybe I'll make that a job, and that could be an extra added activity that I can do with all of my children or some of them. You know what I mean? Because it's pretty fascinating to see it work. So if you like this video, please share it with somebody. Don't forget to like and also subscribe to this channel. More will be coming. And don't forget to also check out my music at IamPoetDeep.com. That link will be attached to the description. Have a great day. Peace.